And now, for the week of July 31st, Adobe Photoshop TV is on the air.
Welcome to Adobe Photoshop TV from the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And here's your hosts, the Photoshop guys, Scott Kelby, Dave Cross, and Matt Klaskowski.
Welcome to another rich and antioxidant episode of Photoshop TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, the fine folks that bring you Photoshop User Magazine.
And this week brought to you by the folks from Fotolia, CDW, Strata, iStock, and DLO, known in the hood as DLO.
Oh, jeez. Welcome back, everybody. Everybody's shaking their head behind us. Welcome back, everybody. We've got another fine episode of Photoshop TV ahead for you. My name is Matt Klaskowski, and with me here in the studio is Mr. Larry Becker.
Yes.
Director of the NAPP.
I put the duh in director.
All righty then. Hey, so Larry, I noticed a little something about you today.
What's that?
The shirt you're wearing.
Oh.
It's got Canon on it. Are you like
thing?
a Dave Cross fan? Are you?
I found his wardrobe closet. It's amazing. It's like miles long, and I just rummaged through and found
all
one
these
that
Canada
fit.
shirts,
Canada
all over
shirts. It's
Canada
incredible.
Flags.
Yeah.
Well, as you noticed, Dave Cross and Scott Kelby are not here with us today, but myself and Larry are. Now, again, I said it in the last episode, and I do have this dream that one day we'll be together again. I think it might happen soon, but they are both still on the road, vacationing, teaching, things like that. But they will be back, and they will hopefully be back very soon. So
yes, we're hoping.
The show's going downhill.
It's in flames. I'm getting hate mail and all kinds of things.
If you didn't already, you will this week. Well, folks, don't let that stop you, though. We will still have many good tutorials for you this week. In fact, I brought something I'm going to show you how to create this abstract thingy, I call it. So
That's a clever name.
Yes, abstract thingy. But it's how to create one of those cool kind of abstract images. And you'll definitely recognize the style when you see it.
Good enough.
What you got, Larry?
This week, I get a lot of questions from people that want to know about color correcting eyes. You know, the red eye, and of course there's the red eye tool. But what happens when it's a pet and it's a green eye?
So, the green eye tool.
Yes. Well, there is no green eye tool, so we got a solution for that.
CS3, baby. That's the pet green eye tool removal. Okay. Well, that said, we will stop with the horrible jokes that Larry Becker is telling, and we will start with my first tutorial. So I mentioned that it's going to be how to create an abstract thingy, which is the only name that I can think of to call it. So let's go ahead and start here. I'm going to create a brand new image. Honestly, it can be any size you want it to be. I'm going to do 1024 by 768. Let's go ahead and let's start off with creating a gradient for our background. So I'm going to set my foreground color here to kind of a not dark, but kind of medium dark blue color here. And then I'm going to set my background color to more of a lighter blue. And I'm going to click on that swatch. I'll grab that blue and then just maybe move it over here, lighten it up, and add a little bit more cyan into it. I'm going to take my gradient tool. I'm going to use the linear gradient. I'm just going to drag from one end to the other end of my image here. The next thing I want to do is I'm going to create a shape here. So I'm going to use my shape tool to do it. And I'm going to use the rounded rectangle. And then I'm also going to press D and X to set my foreground color to white. I'm going to take that rounded rectangle tool. I'm just going to click and drag and make a rounded rectangle. Then I'm going to use one of these little options up here in the options bar. You can see here there's one called subtract from shape area. So if I select that, and if I were to click and drag, I'll even do it now. Watch what happens. See what it does is it subtracts the shape I just drew from the original shape. And it just leaves you with one shape layer, which is very cool because now you don't have all these different shape layers floating around. Well, we're going to take that a step further here, and I'm just going to subtract most of this shape. I'm going to use my spacebar key to tuck it up close here. I want it to be thin there, and I want it to be a little thicker on the right-hand side, and that's the shape I'm left with. Now what I want to do is free transform this shape. So I'm going to zoom out a little here so I can see all my free transform. I'm going to press Control-T, and and that's Command T on a Mac. It goes into free transform. And if I hold down the Control key, I can pull this side out. See what's happening there? I'm starting to skew and transform this image. So I'm going to pull that out, and I'm going to bring it over to the side here. And let's hold down the Control key once again, and pull that part out just to about there. And really, these settings are not written in stone. The whole point is it's abstract. You're supposed to do what you want. Then I'm going to duplicate this layer, Control J, and use my Move tool, and let's move it up a little bit here. Once again, go to Free Transform, and let's maybe, you know what? Free Transform, let's flip this one. Let's make it point upward. And I'll drag it a little closer to the first one. Hold down that Control key again, and we'll kind of bring that one off to the side. And then I'm going to duplicate one more time, and we'll use the Move tool. We'll drag this one right here. Let's zoom out. You can always press Control 0 so you can see all the shapes there. Press Control T for free transform, and what I want to do here is kind of just bring this one so it just goes out the top, and hit Enter. Now I've got my 3 shapes, and there's a couple things you can do to this to really start bringing all these different shapes, kind of make them come to life, and that is change the blend modes. So I'm going to leave the bottom one as white. I'll just drop the opacity a little. I'm going to take the next one. I'm going to change the blend mode to soft light. Soft light is kind of the magic blend mode for this, but I encourage you to try all the other ones. Overlay, color dodge work pretty good, but soft light I find works good, especially with these colors. And then I'll change the other one here. We'll change that one to soft light. So now you can see we start to interact with the background a little bit. It starts to show up darker and lighter depending on that gradient. Next thing we want to do is create a couple of more shapes here. I'm going to create a new layer right above the background layer. And I'm going to press D again to set my foreground to black and white. I'm going to grab my gradient tool, and this time I'm going to use the one here. It's second from the right-hand side. It's called Reflected. And use that gradient, but watch what happens. I'm going to click and drag it onto my image. And as I click and drag it, every time I do it, it resets the gradient, no matter which way I drag. But if I change this blend mode, and I go down and I change it to difference, watch what happens here. See that? Now I'm starting to get some really crazy, really abstract effects with whichever way I drag it. Each time I drag it, I'm adding to that effect. But there's more to it because right now, well, it still looks black and white. We want it to match the color of the background here. So what you do, come here and just go down to soft light. And now you see, we start to see darker blues and lighter blues throughout. It's a little bit harsh, so I'm going to hit it with a Gaussian blur filter. And you don't want to go too far. You still want to see some of those lines here. You just don't want them to be too harsh. So you want them almost to look like little highlights and shadows throughout there. So maybe I think about 30 is going to work perfect for this image, and we'll hit OK. Next, we need to make a couple more shapes. So I'm going to go to my shape tool. This time go to the custom shapes, and in the shape picker, you want to click that little right pointing arrow up here and load all your shapes. And once you do that, as you scroll down through the shape picker, the one that I want always hides from me. It's inevitable, but I think I found it. Here we go. This kind of rounded one with the punched out center. So again, set your foreground to white and just click and draw your shape right onto the canvas here. Go into free transform, and let's go ahead and we'll skew this guy. Make him look add a little bit more perspective to it. There we go. And I want to bring that in. There. Hit enter. Now, I want to show you a trick here. I'm going to use a layer style for this. So just double click, or just click at the bottom here, right at the little F, and add a gradient overlay style to it. And under gradient overlay, I'm just going to use the black and white style here. Let's see if we can get it into screen. I'm going to use the black and white style, and I'm going to change my blend mode. What blend mode? Soft light. And as soon as I do that and drop the opacity here, we don't see anything. So this is one of the benefits of rehearsing your tutorial before you do it here. Okay, should not be that difficult. Soft light. Maybe it's not soft light. Let's just cycle through. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to cycle through until it looks good. Let's see. Nope, 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 nope. I think There we go. Let's go ahead with exclusion. Exclusion is looking all right there, so I'm going to keep that one. And then I'm going to change the actual layer blend mode. Again, soft light. And now you can see how it starts to interact with the background here. And that might have been where I went wrong. That might have been. So let's go back here, and I'm going to change that to soft light as well. Okay, that looks
sweet.
better. There we go.
So it was soft light.
It was soft light. It's just you have to change the layer to soft light. I should have done that first. So learn from my mistake here. Change the layer blend mode to soft light as well. The other thing is, and I didn't do it when I had this open, but I can change the way that gradient overlay looks here. So it's a huge dialog box. I can change the way it looks just by changing the angle. So you can see I can reposition where the white and where the black is going to. So just change that angle. Now here's a very cool trick. Duplicate the layer. Go into free transform. That's Control-T or Command-T on the Mac. And what I'll do is I'm just going to hit the down arrow key and the right arrow key, and then hit enter. Now, I'm going to use the whole left-hand side of the keyboard. Okay? Hold down your Control, your Alt, your Shift, and that's Command-Option-Shift on the Mac, and hit the T key a lot of times.
Sweet.
And what it's doing is it's creating this 3D object, and it's doing it all on this one layer for us. So if I click off there, look at that. Now we get this cool little 3D object here. It's on its own layer. You could always drop the opacity, do all that fun stuff to it. Now, the rest of the tutorial is really just taking the existing shapes I have and just multiplying or duplicating them, moving them to a different area in your image, and just totally using your Control, your Alt, your Option keys, just totally changing the way that they look. Drag it below the original. Again, duplicate the layer. Move it down here, Control-T, and move it to a different place. Drop the opacity of all those different layers here. Let's see, where's the one over here? We'll drop that one. And now you can see we get all those shapes going on in the background. And then the thing that completes these abstract illustrations are arrows. I don't know why, but they all have arrows. So we'll do one too. Drag an arrow onto your screen. See, it automatically picked up the layer style that I've been using, that gradient overlay. Just come up here, click that little X, and finally finish it off with some type. And I've already got one finished here. So let's take a look. Whoa. Take a look here, put some Photoshop TV text at the bottom. The key to that, though, just remember, is those blend modes, soft light, overlay, color dodge, just change those. Arrows, don't forget the arrows, and just change your opacity. And you can really interact with that background. Well, let's take a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Adobe Photoshop TV.
Home Dock Deluxe, the essential entertainment center for the iPod. Enjoy all of your music, pictures, and video right on your TV and home stereo system. Home Dock Deluxe is the only iPod dock with on-TV navigation of your iPod's music. Nothing is better than browsing your tunes on your TV with remote in hand. The 18-button remote and on-TV navigation of your music makes the Home Dock Deluxe the only choice for your living room. DLO Home Dock Deluxe, where your iPod lives at home.
Welcome back to Adobe Photoshop TV. I'm Matt Kluskowski with Larry Becker here. And real quick, before we get to our next tutorial, don't forget we've got our contests coming up, contest coming up here, where we were going to give away another ticket to Photoshop World. So stand by for that and a couple other cool prizes. But before we get there, I think we have a tutorial from Larry.
I'm sure we do.
Okay, cool, Larry. So show us how to use the green eye tool.
Okay, this is all about the dreaded green eye. People have pictures of pets, and a lot of times if you get flashback, it's not the red eye, which of course the red eye tool can fix. This is green eye. And so green eye repair, you can do it any number of ways. This is just one quick way that I found works pretty well for me. So let's start with this picture of my good friend's pet. As you can see, you've got the green eye here. It's right in the middle. First thing that I want to do is go to the lasso tool, hit the L key on your keyboard, and just get a good selection around the eye. Get the whole eye area. Hold the Shift key to add to the selection. I got both those, and float them up to their own layer. So Command-J on a Mac, Control-J on a PC, and essentially what you've got is something like this on its own layer.
I like it.
Isn't that nice? It's kind of creepy, isn't it? So what we're going to do is, first thing that you have to do is make the green area black, but you don't want to lose the highlights. Couple steps to do this. First, I'm going to add a hue and saturation adjustment layer and take the saturation down to -100 to pull out all the color. Now I want to attach this hue and saturation adjustment layer to the layer below it. So I hold down the Option key and click in between, Alt on a PC, and that forces, so you can kind of see just the black and white is only in the area of the eye, the thing that we floated up to its own layer. Then the next thing that I want to do is a levels adjustment layer. So we'll add the levels adjustment layer, kind of pull that out of the way so that you can see what's going on. And in this, we want to make the pupils really, really black. And so you take the shadow slider on the left and bring it down really, really dark. Don't worry about what it's doing to the rest of the image. The main thing is look in the eye and make sure you still have highlights there, but it's really, really dark in the center of that eye. Click the OK button. And we need to also make sure that this layer attaches only to the eyeball layer that we're working on. So again, hold down the Alt key on a PC, Option on a Mac, and click in between the layers, and it merges between the two. Now it looks like the dog has been in a bad fight. but what you want to
doing to the dog?
Oh, it's pretty cruel, isn't it? Now what I want to do is I want to go to layer 1 and click on that. And I want to add a layer mask. So just click on layer mask tool, and I want to fill that with black. So I'll make black my foreground color. Option delete, or Alt delete, Option backspace.
Green eyes back.
Green eyes are back. But what we want to do is paint the eyeball, the pupil rather. And so we're going to grab the brush tool. It works best in this image anyway. It works best with a soft edge brush. And so then just go in and paint this with white. So you need to change foreground color to white. And we're painting on the layer mask right now. Paint in the eyeball area. Little soft edge brush action. Yeah. And there we go.
Look at that.
So that's all there is to it. It's taking that green and making it into a black pupil. There you have it. Fixed, repaired dog.
Repaired dog. That's that's very cool. Hey, one thing I'm going to say about that is it matters where you click on the layer or the layer mask. And I say this because I'll see all the million questions that
sure,
get on it. And
absolutely.
You said it the right way, but I kind of just want to draw attention to it because I do see a lot of questions on that. When you got a layer and a layer mask, if you click on that layer, you're going to start painting black or white on the layer. So make sure you click on that layer mask thumbnail, and you'll see a little outline around it. So
good point.
A lot of questions on that one. All right, well, we talked about Mr. Dave Cross and you invading his closet.
Yep.
Well, Dave has actually left us with something because Dave cares.
Dave does care.
He does care. So Dave has left us with a little something. So let's go check out to see what Dave left us with because
Dave TV.
Dave TV.
Hey, I'm here in my old hometown of Ottawa, Canada, and you can see behind me is Tim Hortons. So here's the plan. I'm going to run in, grab a quick couple of donuts, maybe some decaf coffee, maybe an iced cappuccino, and then you can watch this tutorial, and I'll see you after that. So my tip is very simple. It's basically actually building on a tip from Pete Bauer. Pete Bauer runs the NAP help desk and is always, well, very helpful and has all sorts of great suggestions. And his was an interesting way to use select color range. If you've not seen this command, it basically lets you choose something by the color. So for example, I could click on her dress and you'll see it's selecting just that area. The white areas represents what's going to be selected. The black area represents what will not be selected. So as you move the slider, you see you're adjusting it. But the way most people use this, as I'm using it here, they just jump in and start using it, which is fine. But his suggestion, which I thought was a great one, is an interesting variation on that to use it. So I'm going to make a very rough selection like this all around. And now normally the way you make selection, say I want to use the magic wand now, if I hold down the Option or Alt key, that will take away from the selection. The problem is it might be pretty difficult to get everything in one shot. That actually worked reasonably well, but not as much inside her hair, and also you can't really see what you're doing. But you apply the same principle when you hold down the Option or Alt key and choose color range. Now you're saying use color range to determine the areas you're going to remove from the selection. So now I click in the clouds, for example, and you can see already I'm getting a pretty good black silhouette. I can move this maybe a little higher. And you're using this kind of as a reference. I can also use this eyedropper with a plus sign to say I also want this kind of cloud color. And that looks to me like it's doing a pretty good job. Now again, I could push this a little higher. If you go too high, see how it's introducing areas of gray? I don't want that, so I need to be somewhere in the middle here. And the other thing is you can use, let me just move this up here, you can use this selection preview if you choose quick mask. That means on the image itself it's going to show you what the results will be, so you can kind of play with it a little bit in here. So I'm going to go with that and click OK, and now you see it's done a really nice job. There's just a couple little areas I'd need to tweak. So I could go back to the lasso tool. I just pressed L for lasso. Again, hold down the Option or Alt key and just circle that part to remove it from the selection, and do the same thing down here to try and get those areas removed. Something like this. Now, it looks to me like it's done a pretty good job, but let's just check it out. We'll take our Move tool, drag and drop onto a different photo, and you'll see overall it looks pretty good. Now notice how you can still see a little bit of kind of a blue fringe and so on, where you could apply the same principle now. I'm going to bring in my layers palette. If I Command or Control click on it to load it as selection, now I can do the same thing. Option or Alt and use color range. Let's get off this quick mask thing, put it back to none for a second. And basically I'm just going to click right in the very edge to try and get just that little bit of blue around the outside. Something like that. And then I can press delete to get rid of that. That's done an okay job, but anytime you have something a layer by itself, one of the options which you won't be able to see because it's way down at the bottom layers palette, it's called matting defringe, and it brings up this dialog box. And often when we click in there, see that's improved it a little bit. And the final thing I would do to try and make this even better is again to hold down the Command or Control key, which will load it as selection. Choose Select, Modify, Contract, and that will contract it by a certain amount. I'm going to choose 1 pixel, so now I've made a selection slightly smaller. I'm going to choose Inverse, which will select the opposite. And then I'm going to hide this selection, Command or Control H to hide it. And all I'm going to do is apply just a very slight blur. So I'm going to go to, blur, there we go. Go on the edge. Now that's too much. See how it's adding kind of a glow effect. I just want to put a little lower, something like that. So that will just make it a little less obvious. We still have a bit of an issue there, but again, you get the idea. The main thing I wanted to show you, however, is how you can use Select Color Range as a way to either add to your selection by using the Shift key, or as I did, taken away from the selection using Option or Alt. There you have it. All right, well there you have it, a little tutorial for you, a little coffee. Well, you didn't have the coffee, I had the coffee, but that's it for my little escapade here in Ottawa. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Cross, for that wonderful tutorial.
And for the shirt.
And for the shirt, yes. All right, well, that's Dave's tutorial. I guess it's back to me. I've got another one here. I've got a quick little trick for you. I'm going to show you how to simulate a digital infrared effect here in Photoshop. So infrared photography, basically kind of like black and white, but not really. It takes the blues, makes them really, really dark, takes the greens and really lightens them. So it's almost a kind of an invert of a black and white photo. If you
gives you kind of spooky pictures.
It does, but sometimes it gives you some very cool effects too.
Absolutely.
So I'll show you how to do that really quick here in Photoshop. All right, take a look at the photo that I've got open here. And what we'll do is we're going to add a channel mixer adjustment layer. So just go down to channel mixer in your adjustment layer picker here. And first thing you want to do is check off monochrome. And that takes all the color away. Now, if you look at the photo, what we want to do here is all our blues were in the sky, all our greens were down here. We kind of want to make the blues darker and the greens lighter. So the first thing that I'll do here is I'm going to drop my reds down. And then I'm going to take the greens, I'm going to bump that all the way up here to about 50 to 60. And I'm going to take the blues and I'm going to drop that down. You see what's happening? See, when I drop the blues down, it makes everything darker. But we can fix that because now I can compensate on the green side here and I can make the greens lighter. Now, as I move this blue, I know that as I make it darker, I'm going to make the greens darker too, and that's why I'll always go a little bit further as I'm looking at this. And that's really what you want to do. There's no settings that I can give you to make the greens and the blues work perfect because a lot of it just depends on the photo that you're using. But I can tell you, just always drag this blue till the sky looks good. And by the way, this always tends to work best when you have some type of a photo with sky and clouds in it, because it's that contrast and that.
Those puffy clouds, it seems like they're in every infrared photo.
Exactly. So, and trees too. So I drag that blue down, and I'll do it one more time here where I'll lighten that green. Then maybe increase the red a little bit. And you see by adjusting the reds, watch what I'm doing. Take a look at the objects in the foreground. When I had it down here, they were a little bit dark, but now I'm creating some contrast in those objects, really lightening them up. And then one last time, I'll drop the blues down. So now I'm ready. I'm going to click OK, and that adds a channel mixer adjustment. The problem is I want to run a filter on this. I want to run a diffuse glow filter on this because the infrared photos tend to have almost a grainy glow effect to them. So I can't run that filter on either one of these layers because it won't work the right way. So I want to take all this and put it up onto its own layer. Now I could merge it, but I'm going to use that shortcut. It's Control-Alt-Shift, and on the Mac it's Command-Option-Shift, and the E key. When I press that, it takes everything that was below it and it punches it up onto its own layer. Now I'm going to go to the Filter menu, down to Noise, and go up to Distort. You like that, don't you? Go down to Noise and then go up to Distort and go to Diffuse Glow.
So fast, only pros caught it.
Yes. And then hit the minus key so I can see this thing. Now it looks really, really bad the way I have it. I'm going to take the graininess, I'm going to take that down, and I happen to know my settings that I like here, but I can't see them. So for the graininess, I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. Also, clear amount. Here's where you can really mess things up. So I'm going to take my glow amount, drop that down. Now we don't want to add a lot of glow here, so just take that. I know the glow amount's set at 2. It doesn't show it there, but it's set at 2. And then clear amount, here's where you probably want to keep this one pretty high, somewhere in the 10 to 12 range. And then graininess, again, I take this one down pretty low. I don't want too much grain. I just want a little bit in there to kind of simulate that noise that you'll get from infrared photography. When you're done, click OK. And now you can see that's before and that's after. So we got ourselves a nice little infrared effect, and all we really needed was an adjustment layer for it. One other thing, though, we had the adjustment layer. If you ever want to apply that to another photo, you can just take that adjustment layer and drag it to another photo. And you might have to double-click it and tweak the settings, but that's the beauty of an adjustment layer.
I love infrared photography. That's a very cool effect.
Very cool. Thank you. All right. Well, I have no idea what we're doing next.
Well, according to the reader board, we're headed to news.
Me for the news.
So let's go over to Matt. Yeah, a clueless guy bringing us the news. This is great.
It should be good news this week. All right. Let's go to me for the news. News, everybody. This week's news is sponsored by Fotolia.com. Now, they've got a deal going. So not only are they sponsoring the news, but if you go to Fotolia through the Photoshop TV link, you get 5 free credits. And on August 30th, they're going to be picking a winner for 25 free credits. So go check it out and you get some free stuff. Also, in the Photoshop news, On1 Software has released some brand new photo frame plugins. So they've actually got new plugins not just for Photoshop, but if you have family members that use Photoshop Elements, there's plugins for that. There's also Rick Salmon's photo frame plugin package as well. So you can find out more at on1software.com. And the last thing I want to tell you here is that new automator actions have been added from the folks over at automatedworkflows.com. So there's automator actions for everything from InDesign, Core, Photoshop, even to the Mac operating system. So go over to automatedworkflows.com to find out more. That's it for the news. Let's go to a word from our sponsor. Well, we are back once again, and it is time for contest. So last week's contest, we asked you, we actually kind of took a little bit of a different spin on it, and we asked you a Lightroom question. So the Lightroom question was, what is the keyboard shortcut to get into the print module? And the shortcut is Control-4 on a PC, Command-4 on a Mac.
And we would accept either one?
And we would accept either one, so congratulations to name that appears somewhere around here, right?
Yeah, I actually have a cousin with that same last name.
Very good. In keeping with our great jokes for the show.
That wasn't a joke.
Okay. All right, in keeping with our witty humor for the show, let's talk about this week's contest. We got some giveaways here. First off, we got Mr. Dave Cross's brand new Photoshop Finishing Touches book.
That is a sweet book. That's
Very
a
cool
really
book. I got to say, one of the photos in the book are excellent, but the way Dave and the book team laid this thing out is just amazing because there's a lot
visual,
of effects.
It's a visual index, though.
And we're all visual people.
Yeah, and at the front, you kind of pick out the finished product that you want and flip right to that page. Very cool.
So, Dave's book. We've also got, if you check out photoshoptraining.com, there's 2 new online training courses there. Scott's course, which we talked about probably about a month or so ago, digital photography with Photoshop. And then
there's a new course.
Yeah, new course, a couple weeks old by myself. And it's called Mastering Layers with Photoshop CS2. And it's all about layers. So everything to do with layers. There's 21 days. You can look at the outline here, so we don't really have to go over it. But just go take a look at the course. So the prize will be you'll get to pick whichever one of those 2 courses
Very cool.
that you want to take. And then the last prize.
What's the last prize?
Photoshop World.
One pass.
One pass to Photoshop World. So go check it out. That's going to be our contest. By the way, if you're registered for Photoshop World, you're planning on taking a pre-conference or you're thinking about it, sign up because they will sell out.
Always do.
We were talking about the numbers this morning, and they will sell out. So if you're thinking about it, go sign up for one of those. But that said, let's talk about our contest question this week. The contest question is, what is the third name that appears on that splash screen when you start Photoshop? So there's the credits to
CS2.
CS2. So. And there's credits to all the wonderful people that make Photoshop. What's the third name on there? So Mac or PC, we'll accept either one, but I think it's the same. And send your question, go to photoshoptv.com, and there's a little link on there.
Okay.
I think that's it. And, oh, you know what?
Tell me what else.
We didn't give them our little airline thing. So Photoshop World, we just mentioned it. You've got 4 more days for the deadline to get the early bird registration, so you save $100. Airfare from Portland was $170, and airfare from Denver was $180. So I just got those off of Expedia.
It's pretty affordable to get there, and the early bird registration ends August 4th.
And you mentioned that it's affordable to get there, but you have to remember you need a hotel when you get there. Mandalay Bay, that's where the conference is at.
Right.
It's probably going to be sold out. But we talked last week, and I'll say it again this week. You've got the Excalibur, which is a 5-minute free tram ride away from the Mandalay Bay. So you stay in air conditioning.
And Luxor is real close.
Got the Luxor, which is very close. New York, and MGM. They all had very reasonable rates for those
Pretty
dates.
close to get there. And people are thinking, well, I wish I could stay at the resort to be at that conference. Trust me, it's a lot of walking no matter which way you go.
And you're never going to be in your hotel room.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Folks, we have a great time there. It's the only reason we talk it up is it's NAP's conference, but you become a NAP member when you go. Everybody has a great time, and the instructors, it's world class, and they stick around. Everybody is very friendly.
Sure.
So you can get access to really some of the best people in the
And a
world
cool
in
trade show
Photoshop.
floor, too. We got all kinds of people will be there, like Adobe.
Adobe, cool. So that is our Photoshop World spiel,
Okay.
I guess we can call it. Let's talk about what we're going to give them to do this week.
This week, we've got a NAP buddy, and his name is Mark Johnson. And he's got a cool website all about critiquing photographs. So you send in your picture, and some professional photographers will tell you what they like and don't like and how they might have improved it. It's called Radiant Vista, so radiantvista.com. Go there.
Cool. Also, see this? Hope I don't want to move too much. You can see it, but MacBook Pro, I'm still using it. Nobody's taken it away from me yet. That's because you only have 1 more week to enter the contest. So you enter the contest by going to layersmagazine.com. You win this very, very machine. So you'll be very happy.
Loaded
with
to the teeth.
CS2, Boot Camp, Mac Windows, the whole thing. We did a whole demo on it last week. Compliments of CDW. Also thanks to Adobe and Apple for it as well. But you'll be very happy. I will be very sad. And then the last one is go check out the Lightroom podcast, hosted by George Jardine, who's the pro evangelist for Lightroom. And the easiest way to find it, you can go to photoshoptv.com or just go to iTunes and do a search for Lightroom.
Very cool.
Folks, that's it. We appreciate you sticking around for our Adobe Photoshop TV show, and we will be back next week
with the whole team.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably.
You never know. But we'll be back once again with Adobe Photoshop TV. See you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching Adobe Photoshop TV. See you next week.